My name is Gökçe Sert, and this semester I had the pleasure of teaching Translation 2 at ASBU. The course Translation 2 is designed to equip the students with some basic translation skills. To this end, we started with sentence-level translations and gradually moved on to longer and more complicated texts. I wanted this course to have its feet firmly planted on a literary ground. So, the majority of the texts that we worked on were either from literary texts or about literary terms. For example, we started with the definitions of terms such as stream of consciousness, realism, epic, or feminist criticism. At one point in the course, we deviated from literature and worked on more practical texts, let's say, such as invitations, letters of recommendation, application forms, and even newspaper articles. The first two assignments that I gave the students included all of these genres. In this class, I tried to go over some sample texts first, did some modeling, I should say, dwelt on language items, and showed some sample translations. We went over their weaknesses and strengths, and then I tried to assign texts that would recycle the language items that we studied so that the students have more practice on these. Also, we talked about the theoretical side of translation and discussed how translations aim at building bridges between languages and cultures. So, the connection between the source text and the target text was an important part of our discussion. So we, in a way, tried to refrain from a word-for-word translation, but rather we tried to translate texts in such a way that they would sound natural to the Turkish reader, that they would be so reader-friendly as though they had been originally written in the target language. Throughout this semester, I have to say that I was very pleasantly surprised by my students' level of commitment, diligence, and creativity. And I would like to share with you some of their translations for the second and third assignments. We will have some samples of their work in the accompanying Word file. You will see how they translated newspaper headlines, and as you know, newspaper headlines are hardly grammatically precise, and we of course went over this prior to the assignment, and in the accompanying file you can see what they have done. In the second half of the semester, we mostly worked on literary texts, short stories, poems, plays, and the like. I tried to prepare lectures on how each genre should be translated. I, in a way, bombarded the students with lots of theoretical information. And also, I try to exemplify how each genre is translated by providing some original texts and their translations. For prose, for instance, we studied Virginia Woolf's Orlando sections from the novel, and we had to chance to talk a little bit about Virginia Woolf's style and literary modernism, of course. For poetry, we talked about Dylan Thomas. I prepared a lecture on Thomas's poetry, his general style, his philosophy of writing, and also I assigned the students to read an article about Dylan Thomas's The Force That Through the Green Fuse Drives a Flower, and how that was translated into Turkish. Afterwards, I assigned the students these two same authors and one extra if they wanted a challenge, a personal favorite of mine, so that they would have the chance to translate the authors whom they are now familiar with. And they could choose to translate either a section from Virginia Woolf's short story Kew Gardens, or they could have worked on Ursula Le Guin's The Ones Who Walk Away from Umilas. Virginia Woolf's story is very interesting in that it is almost cinematographic, you know. It is as if a camera is focusing on a pair in wandering in Kew Garden, and then suddenly it zooms out and it focuses on another pair. So it is a very interesting story. If you can see the accompanying Word file, you will see that there is a link to the full text, so you can read it. As for Ursula Le Guin's story, we start in a utopia, a wonderful dream city, but it has a dark secret. I am not going to spoil the surprise for you, so if you are interested, please again go and visit the story. I think you will like it. And for poetry, I asked the students to translate again Dylan Thomas, but this time Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, a very famous poem. It is recited a lot in movies as well. I'm sure you have heard of it somewhere. The results were amazing. Again, I am very, very proud of my students, I have to say that they have done an amazing job, and in the accompanying file you can see three different alternatives, three different, let's say, translations of the same poem, and let's see which one you are going to prefer. We will close the term with a project. This time I gave a little bit of liberty to my students, and they are free to choose a literary work that they would like to study and translate into Turkish. Not the entire work, 500 word passage is going to be enough. And accompanying that, I also wanted the students to write reflection paragraph explaining how the translation process was for them, what they have learned about this author and the work, and why they decided to choose this work to begin with. So I am really looking forward to reading their translations. I'm sure that they're going to come up with wonderful things, and they're going to amaze me as they have always done throughout the semester. Thank you very much for listening to me, and thank you, my dear students, for all the hard work and energy you have put into this course. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the very best. Bye.